A massive, potentially half-mile wide wedge tornado, meaning it's wider than it is tall, just obliterating a town. Fairdale, Illinois. We have video. We're going to again, I'm sure, talk to the chaser, Matt Sallow, who took this video, and he still is there with us. And of course, he showed us the video and then, of course, the damage in Fairdale. This is about 80 miles northwest of Chicago. So lots to get to, but it's not only Chicago and Illinois, all the way to the deep south. And this, again, has the potential to move east to the eastern seaboard tomorrow. So a lot of big cities being impacted as well, and we'll kind of delineate who will be impacted there and when. Thanks so much for being with us for our extended coverage. I'm meteorologist Alexandra Steele.
And I'm Alex Walls. Now, so far today, we've seen several reported tornadoes, homes damaged, semi-trucks blown over, and the most important thing for you to know, the threat continues into these late hours.
Yeah, we have live crews, teams of meteorologists and reporters in the areas impacted. Also, expert analysis, of course, on what is happening with expertise, of course, you can find nowhere else.
And we've got severe weather expert Dr. Greg Forbes and storm specialist Carl Parker getting us started. They are in the lab, and guys, an incredible sight earlier. How are things looking right now on the radar?
Well, we've got ongoing tornado warnings, a very energetic atmosphere today. You've got very strong winds in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere fueling these fast-moving storms, and ongoing storms there in Texas and up into Louisiana and certainly into Illinois. I want to bring in Dr. Greg right now to talk about these Illinois storms, and still a string of tornado warnings in effect right now.
Yeah, and the storm that had the big tornado that we saw there in the video is still in progress. It's getting close to Wisconsin. It's up near and north of Woodstock, Illinois right now. Let's take a look. We'll take a look at that one, but also wanted to show you this one that's down north and east of Peoria, but that will be coming toward the Chicago area in a little bit less than 2 hours if it holds together. So we'll start with that one. We're talking about a tornado warning that's in LaSalle County. That's a relatively new county that's been warned for the storm that's coming off to the north and east. It's in the area, there's rotations in the area down near Evans and heading up toward the area near and probably just north of Streeter and toward the Grand Rapids, Illinois area as this storm moves northeast at about 45 miles per hour. And at that pace, you can see that it would come into the Chicago area just a little bit before the right downtown Chicago, 9:52, the far south suburbs like Joliet there, about 9:14 p.m. if it holds together. So Chicago, you've been waiting and perhaps dreading that. Your time is perhaps nearing unless this storm begins to weaken. Let's go then to take a look to the storm that has missed you to the west but has caused damage all along its path. That's in McHenry County in Illinois, about ready to move up into Kenosha, Racine, and Walworth counties in Wisconsin with a very dangerous storm there, showing some signs in terms of the shape of the storm of it trying to gust out as it gets more of this big elongated line. But when we look inside of it, it really has a big circulation. You see this one band that's shaped this way, another this way, and in the middle we've been seeing at times two circulation centers that are heading up in the area north and west of McHenry towards Salem in Wisconsin. This one, Sarah, if are we tracking this out? Going to track this out and we'll see that is going to come across Highway 12. That's going to be a very dangerous zone coming up to the Salem area. You see Kenosha about 8:49 p.m. For the track of this particular storm. Let's go to the high definition radar and we'll see the details of this. I've been talking about there one line that is gusting out, some of these bands that are coming in. So this one would be one that's not the classic hook echo on the southwest side that you would see, but if we go to the velocities in this, oh my, it certainly continues to have that broad circulation that's up in that area where I talked about the two bands changing orientation. Well-defined tornado circulation there heading up toward the Spring Grove area and probably up toward Twin Lakes areas. Let's see if we have a debris signature. Debris signature is weakened somewhat. We're up at an altitude here of about 4,000 feet away from the radar. So that's certainly a good news, but I would expect that we're getting possible wind damage that could be with this and possible tornado damage that are up in the midst of this big ball of precipitation that is working its way from the areas west of Spring Grove, Illinois, up toward the Twin Lakes area of Wisconsin. So Carl, those are a couple of the dangerous storms. Keeping an eye for the next couple of hours on storms coming toward the Chicago area. They'll also be probably the next hour or so working their way toward Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
That's right, and we've got ongoing storms farther south as well, down into parts of Arkansas and into northeast Texas. Very strong circulation. We are getting some reports of damage not very far away from Marshall, Texas. So let's zoom on down and show you where these warnings are. They are now west of Shreveport on either side of Interstate 20. We've seen circulations to the south of 20, but this is the storm that has had the strongest circulation on it. Not as much now, but there is an ongoing tornado warning until 15 minutes after the hour, that for Harrison and Marion counties, and that's now coming right into the Marshall area. So let's take a look at the high resolution radar and show you what's going on with that. So we're going to look inside the storm, and what we're seeing right now is a large area of strong wind. Where you see that green just happens to be lined up with the radar, and that strong wind is now pressing right around the circulation. That is not, it's much broader than it was once was, and that's coming right now into Marshall. But as I zoom out a little bit and we'll step back in time, you notice that this broad circulation now was much tighter when it was north of Hallsville and near Nesbitt. So that is where we likely had a tornado, and we did in fact have debris showing up at that time. Now we'll take you off to the south and to the west. Here's where there is a new tornado warning. This is for Rusk County in northeast Texas. The movement here is east at 25 miles per hour. That circulation is now just west of Henderson, so heads up there in Henderson. Possible tornado coming your way and moving off to the north and the east. Now let's take you farther north and go up into parts of Arkansas. There again is that tornado, those two tornado warnings we told you about. Now you'll notice that these storms are coming across the same areas, especially right through there. So you've got repeated rounds of very heavy rain in the southern part of Arkansas. So there is now a flash flood warning in effect there in southern Arkansas. There's a look at the 12-hour rainfall. So these yellow areas are where we've had more than 3 inches of rain, and then when you get into those orange colors, you're starting to talk about 4, 5, maybe 6 inches of rain. So terrific amount of wet weather and more storms coming in right now. So you've got an ongoing flash flood warning there. Also a severe thunderstorm warning for El Dorado in Arkansas. That's coming right up towards Route 63. Could be some 1-inch hail and damaging wind. And there is now a brand new severe thunderstorm warning up into central parts of Arkansas and right into the Little Rock metro, or at least the northwest side of the Little Rock metro. That is Perry, Pulaski, Saline counties. That is going until 8:30 Central Time. And the concern here, once again, is going to be large hail and damaging wind. So ongoing storms in the south there across parts of Arkansas and Texas. The storms in North Carolina have settled down a good bit, but we've got a long way to go in this severe weather event. Alex and Alex, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Carl. And we want to head down into Texas because joining us on the phone is Reggie Cooper, who's the fire chief in Marshall, Texas, an area that is still under a tornado warning. A Doppler radar indicated tornado.
All right, so reports of damage just west of the town, Reggie. So tell us, what have you seen or what have you heard?
Well, in actuality, we have been monitoring some of the Harrison County Sheriff's Office's radio traffic, and we did hear where a storm had possibly damaged, if not destroyed, some homes. That is unconfirmed at this time, but we have heard that.
Now, do you have an estimate on how many homes and in what community that was?
It's my understanding, like I said, we were just monitoring some of the radio traffic in Harrison County. It's going to be inside Harrison County, of course. We do not have an exact location, and again, I say it's pretty unconfirmed.
Reggie, are you right now in Marshall?
I am not in Marshall. I'm actually in Tyler. I've been monitoring the situation through our dispatchers and our officers that are on the streets in Marshall, and no reports of any damage inside of Marshall has been noted to me.
But right now we are looking at the radar. Of course, there is a tornado warning posted, and you can see it moving right over Marshall once again. So
Absolutely.
You're telling us that radio kind of impacted people talking about that there is potential damage around the city.
Yes, ma'am. We were actually monitoring the Harrison County Sheriff's Office radio traffic, and they have actually stated that there were actually destroyed homes or houses here between our location and Longview. Now, I'm not sure exactly how far west that's going to be, because, of course, Harrison County is a very large county. We went ahead and set the alarms off prior to those notifications coming in, because even though the storm seems to be kind of breaking up and moving a little bit north of us, Harrison County, again, is a very large county. We wanted our residents to be very, very careful and cautious.
Now, Chief Cooper, did you have any reports of any sightings of a tornado?
Now, within the city of Marshall in itself.
And Chief, in Harrison, are there places to go? Right now the tornado warning's posted. You can see certainly that strong supercell moving right over the city. Do people have storm shelters? Are they used to this there?
In actuality, we do not actually have designated storm shelters within the city of Marshall. There are a couple of locations. But the biggest thing is we wanted our citizens to remain at home, get into a spot where it's a small room, windowless spot, and try to just take all precautions and do not go outside under any means. Do not go outside to look.
All right. Well, Chief Cooper, we certainly appreciate it there. We're going to continue to follow this. Again, the area is still under a tornado warning there. The city of Marshall, that's Harrison, as well as Marion counties until 8:15 local time. So still a dangerous situation there. Get into that safe place, that shelter. If you have a basement, get into that. If not, innermost portion of your home on the lowest floor. All
right, let's go right now to the lab once again and kind of digest and take a look at some of these storms again, talking about Marshall and, of course, what's happening in Illinois.
Yeah, we still have three tornado warnings in Illinois and one in Wisconsin. I want to bring in severe weather expert Dr. Greg Forbes to talk about this. And Greg, you've got a lot of wind in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, so these things might keep going for a while.
Well, and testament to that wind is the fact that this storm that had produced that big wedge tornado farther downstate in Illinois has now raced to the Wisconsin line. It's going 60 miles per hour as it heads up into the area. It's going to go just to the south of the Milwaukee area. So we're talking about this storm here. That's the one that has produced damage. You saw the big wedge tornado in our video if you've been watching us for a while. We'll then look at, after that, down at a storm that's north and east of Peoria that will be coming toward the Chicago area. So we're talking about a big supercell thunderstorm here that's had some merges with that. It's coming out of McHenry County and then up into the Wisconsin area, and we'll slide along with that. Has a big tail that comes down south along that. That's a bit of a gust front. And slide to the north a bit, Sarah, and we'll get the name of the counties up into the Wisconsin area, coming up into Kenosha, Racine, and Walworth counties in Wisconsin. So right here, that is the Wisconsin-Illinois line, and this big circulation, it has one band coming in sort of spiraling that way, another band that's spiraling that way, and a big broad rotation center right on the state line there near Richmond now that is where the tornado or multiple tornadoes are likely to be. Let's go to the high definition radar if we can. We'll see if we can straighten this out. I've switched to the radar now out of Milwaukee to show this one. And so here is what we're seeing. From this one, it looks like a little bit more clearer, big supercell thunderstorm. There has been recently a tornado right there, not very far away from Harvard in Illinois. Now the circulation is along this area, right along the Illinois-Wisconsin border. When I go to the high definition radar and the velocities, it is still showing this shear line along that gust front, not quite as strongly rotating as it had been when it was having that big wedge tornado, and not showing a debris signature at this point. So seems like it's gusting out a little bit, still likely to be producing at least occasional tornadoes as it comes north and east of Harvard, Illinois, up toward the area south and east of Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, and north and west of the Twin Lakes area in Wisconsin. And that will take it up into an area that will come south of the Milwaukee area, down into generally the Kenosha, Racine area of Wisconsin from this general area right around Richmond right now. So tracking that out, that takes it probably up around the Racine area, about 841 across the Salem area and north of the Avon areas. Now farther downstate in Illinois, we have a supercell thunderstorm that is down north and east of Peoria now, getting close to Ottawa, Illinois. It's not going nearly as fast as that storm, but it's still making steady progress toward the Chicago metro area. It does not have the kind of rotation that the storm that I just showed you had, at least at one point, but still some rotation there showing up around the Streeter area, coming up then toward the Verona area. LaSalle County, you have a tornado warning on that one. This one, if we track it out, if it continues to hold together, would be coming towards Chicago area, downtown Chicago, shortly before 10 o'clock. Joliet, the far southwest suburbs, about 9:14 p.m. As this dangerous storm probably is going to continue, so we'll need to continue to monitor this one. You can see that the storm's getting a little spotty here. There are not too many storms now left coming toward the northwest suburbs of Chicago, nor toward the south suburbs, so this is not a solid line of storms. Let's go to the Gibson Ridge 18, Sarah. We'll take a look at this storm in detail, and it has several cores within it of hail near Macon, near the Moweaqua area. If I ask the radar to show me where the velocity signature, the rotation is, that is down in the area, and I'll slide it up a little bit here so you see it better. The best rotation, there is a little bit of rotation showing up here west of Moweaqua. The strongest of it is right in about there. So this is a little less organized with the circulation than some of the previous storms, but we'll continue to monitor this one. We have one storm that's farther downstate, off to the north and east of the St. Louis area in Illinois, and we'll slide to that one with a tornado warning down to the east of Springfield, Illinois. Macon, Moultrie, and Shelby counties. This is a little bit cleaner individualized supercell thunderstorm at this point. While Sarah's doing that, I'll see if I can pull it up on a high definition radar here and take a look at that one. And let me see. I guess, well, I'll just be satisfied with this one for the time being. This one is south of Decatur, crossing around the Moweaqua area. Yeah, I did have it pulled up on the other radar, and I thought I had the wrong storm. Heading up toward the Lovington area of central Illinois with, if you want to pull up 18, Sarah, I do have that right storm loaded up there. It's not in a position that is easily seen, though, in terms of the velocity. So down around the Assumption area, heading toward the Bethany, the Lovington area is where the circulation is with this storm. But by far, the worst of the storms in the Illinois area has been the one that's now up on the Wisconsin border. Carl?
Dr. Greg, we want to go back down and show you what's happening in parts of Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas. We are still looking at warnings down here. We've got a tornado warning for a few more minutes. The one that had been rapidly rotating now showing more of a damaging wind threat than anything else. So we'll move on down into northeast Texas and along I-20. There is the tornado warning for Rusk that's going for just a little bit longer here. Actually, it has been extended now to 8:45. So we've got an extension on that tornado warning for Rusk County, and there's your circulation very close to Henderson. And then off to the north of that, there is a a severe thunderstorm warning, and then another severe thunderstorm warning on the cell that had been warned for the tornado. And we were seeing some debris on the radar. We're getting some reports of damage as well north and west of Marshall. That's a severe warning for Harrison and Marion counties. And I want to take a look at the high resolution radar. So what's happened here is that circulation, underneath that circulation, we've watched a big bow develop. And so here it is. There's the circulation right in there. And underneath of that, winds are really surging out and across and into Scottsville. And sometimes, depending on the way that the radar is oriented, we can get a really good look at that wind. And that's exactly what's happened in this case. So that bright green area is the wind that is surging forward on the underside of that circulation where the big bow is. And in fact, if I step it back just a couple of scans here, look at the blue right there. That was telling us that we were getting winds of 75 miles per hour at about 1,500 feet. So very strong wind coming in with the storm even once that tornado threat had subsided. Now off to the south of that, there's your severe warning with some wind and some hail. And then here is the ongoing tornado warning in Henderson, seeing a broader area of circulation near Henderson now, but certainly there could be a tornado along with that. Now let's move off to the north and go up into southern parts of Arkansas and see what's happening there. Now, the one thing that we have noticed is training of storms, which is to say that you've got individual storms that are moving off towards the east or a little north of east, but the axis is not changing much at all, which means you're getting repeated rounds of very heavy rain. And in fact, we've had on the order of 3 to 4 to 5 inches of rain with these storms already. Those orange colors indicating where you're talking about 4 or 5 inches inches of rain. And there you go, 4.1, not very far away from Longview there in Arkansas, and 4 inches just north of El Dorado. So heavy rain, and there's an ongoing severe threat as well in the central and southern part of the state of Arkansas. Alex, back to you.
All right, Carl, thank you so much. Well, on the phone also tonight, we have storm chaser Matt Salo.
Yeah, that's right. He actually caught that tornado on camera when it was near Rochelle, Illinois, as well as some of the damage in Fairdale. So, Matt, we certainly appreciate you joining us here. You're now in Belvedere, Illinois at this point. Are you still chasing storms, and what are you seeing?
No, actually, I'm heading south on 39 now. I'm done chasing for the night. I'm kind of behind the storms now.
All right, so, you know, Matt, I was listening to you while this was happening live about an hour and a half ago when this incredibly huge wedge tornado came through. And, you know, I heard you say in 23 years of chasing, you've never seen a tornado this massive. Talk about what it was like, and I want to give our viewers a perspective on the monstrosity that this thing is that we've seen today.
Well, like I said, I haven't seen a tornado that big. I don't even know what I was thinking at the time. I wasn't really thinking. I was just focused on the tornado.
I can only imagine. A mesmerizing sight, no doubt about it. Now, in the aftermath of that tornado rolling on through, the sobering thing, you know, a lot of us as meteorologists, we get excited as we see this on the radar, and then we see it there in the pictures. But then we pull in and we see some of the damage. Can you describe some of the damage that you saw and some of the structures that were damaged?
Yeah, I've never really seen anything like that. Some houses were heavily damaged. I would say very heavily damaged. Some were completely leveled. Trees were completely sheared off. There were some cars that looked like they had been tossed.
So, Matt, you know, when you were driving, and this is the video, there's Matt in the car. This is what he was looking at, this wedge tornado. It was about 80 miles northwest of Chicago. It's a wedge tornado because wider than it is tall. And then, you know, Matt, we're watching you drive on I-39 right north, and you can see these cars and tractors just beaming forward and driving right toward it. I mean, were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I was surprised. It's not like you couldn't see it.
I mean, as a chaser, do you see that often? Are people just that nonchalant about it?
Yeah, you do see it. It's unfortunate that people do that, but there was a lot of chasers out too, so.
All right, but you got it. You certainly caught it. Wow. All right, so now it's become dark there, so now you're traveling south on I-39, kind of giving up chasing for the night tonight?
Yep.
All right, well, Matt, we certainly appreciated those photos. Incredible, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, of course, the damage there in Fairdale. Hopefully, we don't have any casualties or any injuries there with that. But we want to send it back now to the lab and get a little analysis on some of that video. And, guys, I mean, you just don't see this very often, particularly live on TV.
No, that's exactly right. And a very large tornado. And oftentimes, these larger tornadoes will break down into what are called multiple vortices. And you've got extreme violence when you've got these individual funnels, essentially, that are rotating about each other, and that's exactly what we saw in that video.
Yeah, that's right. The winds of the multiple vortices add to the wind of the parent tornado, so the places that get hit by those, especially the right side of those multiple vortices, they get the strongest winds of all. Big wedge tornado that's showing up here. You see the big, it's wedge because it's wider than it is tall up to the cloud base. Big, wide wall cloud that is coming down, and then even a well-defined rotation above that. So a huge tornado, a huge rotation. You can see the rotation here. It doesn't, we don't have to do time lapse on this. It is spinning like a clock, so to speak, as this, and it's moving very fast, probably about 45 miles per hour across the countryside here as this tornado is rolling across, I believe it was the Rochelle area.
So people understand the mechanics of this. When we're looking at that wall cloud there, that larger feature, and the tornadoes coming from that, that's the bottom of the updraft, the rotating updraft that extends a good, what, 40, 50,000 feet up into the sky.
Yeah, absolutely. There's inflow coming in. It wraps around the backside, and then that corkscrews its way all the way up into the top of the storm. So the inflow is coming in here and rising up. It wraps its way around the front side of the wall cloud a little bit more, and then it's just corkscrewing up inside the storm. So that wall cloud represents the bottom of the updraft of this rotating thunderstorm, and because the thunderstorm has low pressure, has so much rotation, it develops a low pressure inside of that. That helps pull the air up. It also allows the air to condense closer down to the ground. It doesn't have to rise as much to reach those lower pressures and turn into clouds. So the wall cloud comes down. It also is often humidified. You see this rain off to the east here. Sometimes that gets pulled in and you get higher humidity air that allows the cloud to drop down. I call it a layer of a layer cake that's down below the prevailing cloud base, and that's what you call the wall cloud.
And there are a lot of different motions in the tornado. You've got the circular motion, obviously, but then there's also motion into the tornado and then up through the tornado, vertical motion.
Yeah, there's very strong inflow to the tornado, and then in a wide tornado like this one, it will, whoops, we keep zooming out. Wide tornado like this one, the air will come up along the edge. There may actually be a little bit of sinking motion down at the center of the tornado because the strongest rotation is down about here. So the updraft goes up the edges, there's inflow, and then of course the whole tornado has very strong rotation. Now typically the fastest rotation will be over on the south side along the edge, near the edge of the funnel. If the north side of the tornado usually has weaker winds than the south side, because on that south side the motion of the tornado itself as it races off to the northeast at 45, 50 miles per hour adds to the counterclockwise winds on that side of the tornado.
So that's at least part of the reason why you'll have this sort of haphazard damage where on one side of the street there's total damage and on another side of the street there's not that much.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. Plus then you can have these multiple funnels inside that one place, one home may be hit by the multiple vortex, the suction vortex, and its faster winds. The next house across the street might have been missed, and that could make the difference of 50 to 100 miles per hour difference between those two locations, hit or miss by one of these internal suction vortices.
Yeah, very capricious in nature. All right, let's take a look at a new tornado warning out, and Dr. Greg will give you a moment to sort of reset with your radar. So this is going to be on Mach 7, and new tornado warning here in Illinois. Not the strongest of rotations, not as strong as some that we have seen tonight, but nonetheless a tornado warning there. And again, we want to go over to Mach 7, and so this is in central parts of Illinois, and okay, we'll go ahead and move over to 47, and here we go. This is Fayette County, and this is for Bowling Green and Carson, and that's going until 9 o'clock Central Time, so that is west of Effingham, and there you see the little notch right in there, and right in there is where your circulation is going to be. It's right there, and so the tornado likes to sit in that little notch right in here, and that is now west of Moccasin. Again, not the strongest of circulations, but a circulation nonetheless, and that is now moving to the east at, I believe, about 40 miles per hour. So we'll time this out. That's going to take it into Moccasin at 8:38. So coming up here in just about 14 minutes or so, 13 minutes. Then into Banner at 8:48. And then beyond that, perhaps towards Effingham, or at least the north side of Effingham, if there is still, in fact, a circulation there. All right, Macon, Moultrie, and Shelby counties also under tornado warning. This is south of Decatur in Illinois. That going until 8:45. And we'll zoom in just a little bit and take a look at what's going on with that cell. So it looks like we might have a couple of areas where there are circulation within this one, sort of a complicated circulation, but certainly right in here you've got an inflow notch, and so some circulation right there, but some other areas as well. There's the more pronounced but broad circulation that is now right along 51, and that is going to be moving off towards the east and generally towards 121 and towards Sullivan and to the south of Dora. So we'll time this one out. That's getting over into Flat Branch at 8:29, Marrowbone at 8:47, and then 9:01 getting into Chips, and 9:09 will make its way over into Low. So ongoing tornado warnings, and then we've still got a tornado warning well off to the south and west of Shreveport, and there again, Macon, Moultrie, Shelby counties under warning. And we expand out the picture a little bit. Another warning to tell you about here in north central Illinois. So this is the cell that is not terribly far away from Chicago. So you can imagine that if it can manage to hold on to some of its intensity, that we'll be looking at a bigger deal in Chicago coming up here. That is LaSalle County under a severe thunderstorm warning until 8:45. Then there's also a tornado tornado warning within that, and a little notch on the southwest side of that circulation. And then also we've got a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings off to the north there. We'll time this one out. So at its speed, at its present speed, which is probably about 45 miles per hour off to the north and east, actually 50, about 55 miles per hour to the northeast. Thank you. It's going to be taking it up into Joliet at 9:30. So coming up here in about another hour, we'll get up into Joliet, and then about 10:18 into Chicago. Now that would be downtown Chicago. Obviously, Chicago is a very big metro, so obviously the southwest side of the metro around Worth there near the top of the hour. So that's going to be one to watch for Chicago. Tornado warning for LaSalle County, including Bruce, Eagle, and Eden, and that's going until 8:30. And then we've also got warnings in the southern part of Wisconsin. And then one more thing to tell you about, and that is that down in northeast Texas, an ongoing warning there in northeast Texas, and that is south and west of Shreveport. Now, this is not the cell that had the really pronounced circulation. That is now morphed into a severe thunderstorm. But right here, south of I-20, this is Rusk County in Texas. There is an ongoing tornado warning, and that is for the cities of Henderson and Turnertown going until 8:45. Dr. Greg, I don't know if you wanted to take another look at some of those cells, or
I can pull up on that last one. You might have heard me give an ooh on that one because I saw a pretty well-defined hook echo showed up there. So I'm pulling up that one on Gibson Ridge 18, Sarah, to see what that one looks like in high definition. That would be the southern of the storms down there in Texas. So just pop it over to Gibson Ridge 18 if you could, and see what we can see there. So that's a storm that's over in Texas, well down to the south and west of the Shreveport area. And the last one that Carl was showing, and it has developed a pretty well-defined hook echo. There we go. The hook wraps around, and so let's see. That was what caught my eye with the hook. I'll take a look and see what kind of velocities we're showing. Not as well-defined, not as intense as what we had been seeing earlier. So there is some broad circulation. The green's going northbound, the red's going westbound, but the velocities in this case do not match the hook shape. We've had quite the opposite. There's been some rather unimpressive looking radar patterns that we've seen tonight, Carl, that when you looked at the velocities made you go, wow. And this one, I looked at the brand new hook that had gotten well defined and made me say, ooh, but the velocity's not matching that. So when that happens, the hook, it means that if a hook forms, but the rotation's not at the ground, it's rotating more strongly aloft. Some of these have gotten themselves wrapped in rain, and the tornado is hiding in there. You can't see the hook pattern at all.
So you have almost a decision tree, if you will, when you're going through these warnings, and a hook echo is just a very early part of the process. You can't just look at that and say, oh, there's a tornado.
Yeah, back in the era before the early 1990s, when we didn't have Doppler radar, that's all you had to go by. And as you can sort of see here tonight, some storms have hooks, some don't. Sometimes the hook is a well-defined tornado signature. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes you have tornadoes without that hook signature. We're a lot more accurate these days at our ability to detect and warn tornadoes because we have Doppler radar. And as we've been looking at this evening, we have that dual pole capability now that when there's debris tumbling in the tornado, we can see that with the tornado debris signature as well. So we've gone yet a second generation of improvement in terms of that tornado detection ability. Sarah, if you could move us up into the Wisconsin-Illinois line area. We've had some good news take place there. That long-lived tornado that had been that big wedge tornado that we were showing you in the Rochelle area has continued that transition to what I would call a line echo wave pattern, and is no longer tornado warned at all as it comes up into the area around Racine, Illinois. There is that dog leg pattern that I was following that had that big broad circulation in that. And it now has severe thunderstorm warnings for up around the Racine area of Wisconsin and around the Waukegan area there of Illinois, and becoming a more widespread wind damage. There's likely to also be about 1 inch hail coming across with some of this storm, but at least some good news. It seems as if the tornado threat has lessened a little bit with these storms, Carl.
All right, Dr. Greg, thank you so much as always. We're going to take a moment here to sort of reconfigure our our radars and take a look at what's going on, and we'll send it back to the studio. Alex, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Great analysis indeed. And want to bring in a new video coming in out of northern Illinois. Again, it's been a very active time across the state, and you can see there, look at that tornado. And you can see it's pretty much hanging down there from the cloud there.
All right, you know, that tornado looks a lot different, but we'll have to talk to Greg about this. This is Ashton, Illinois, just south of Rochelle, where, of course, we were live and saw that incredible video of that half-mile wide wedge tornado. Again, we're in northern Illinois, this large, dangerous wedge tornado, and where we saw the video from that in Rochelle, and, of course, the damage from Fairdale, really obliterating the area of Fairdale. Ashton is just south along I-88 of that, so more or less, don't you think it was probably the same tornado, although it looks different, certainly a different perspective. This is farther south looking north.
Exactly. So this would have been pretty much before it made its way towards Rochelle. So at this point, probably in the beginning stages, and then what we saw near Rochelle, that huge wedge tornado taking place. So again, earlier in Ashton, Illinois, there were actually reports of damage and even injuries at a Kraft food warehouse near Ashton. So again, that is not confirmed, but a report of that taking place there.
Well, you can see, look at this, Alex, right in the foreground. What those looks like power lines obviously down, and let's see what happens. This is video, we're just getting it in, of course. This is from this incredible tornado that moved through about an hour and a half ago. We're talking about northern Illinois. Again, we had video earlier from Rochelle watching this major wedge tornado. This is new video from Ashton, Illinois. Most likely the same tornado, similar time, and very close to the area.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like you can even hear the sirens going off there. So great to hear that those were working and operational, and hopefully people heeded the warning there as that tornado was rolling on through.
Wow. All right, again, it's certainly amazing. We'll have to talk to Greg about this to see. It looks a lot different. Of course, that wedge tornado was incredible, but she's probably farther away. Hannah, thank you, Hannah, so much for this video. Again, about an hour and a half ago, this new video showing this Illinois tornado. You know, we talked yesterday, the guys did in the lab, no, there's a cap. Why there was a cap yesterday and what that meant. No cap today meteorologically, meaning no warm level, nothing inhibiting these storms to really develop and blow up. And we have seen it, just as though Greg said, a torcon today in Illinois of 6, meaning there was a 60% chance of a tornado, and boy, did we see it.
Yeah, no doubt about it, that verified. Yeah, the inhibiting factors really didn't come into play today, and that's why we were seeing a lot of the explosive storms that developed here late this afternoon and through the early portion of the evening. So, yeah, dangerous situations there across northern Illinois. We're going to continue to follow these storms. They're tracking their way across the state right now. Looks like the threat at this point with these storms seems to be the damaging winds as they're tracking now across northern Illinois and even into southern portions of the state of Wisconsin. So, active weather continuing. Numerous severe thunderstorm warnings are in place. In all total here, at this point, there's still 10 watches, either severe or tornado watches, in effect at this hour. So it is active, no doubt. Let's get a little bit closer to some of these storms. And there we have it into the northern portions of Illinois and southern Wisconsin. Big storms rolling on through. Certainly some heavy rain. You'll be dealing with some hail, potential for some gusty winds as well. That's a severe thunderstorm warning. That does include Milwaukee there.
And Racine, and of course, also more severe thunderstorm warnings. The cities of Avon and Warren and Waukegan, of course, Illinois, just north of Chicago. Of course, that is Lake Michigan to the right there. Farther south and west we drop. And again, still more severe thunderstorm warnings in LaSalle. You can see until 8:45 tonight.
Yeah, that's right. Watching damaging winds and hail being the threat with those storms there. Again, until 8:45. Heads up there if you are in line in the path of the storm, which is continuing to march on off towards the north and the east. Very active there across the Midwest. There's the broader view of what is happening, and you can see, again, the storms in and around Chicago. You're quiet. It's to the north and the west and to the south and west there. But that storm to your south and west could be heading in your direction.
And it's important to note, this whole complex is moving to the eastern seaboard. Philadelphia, Washington will detail the timing of that and what we expect. Coming up next.
Welcome back as we look in live now. This is in Rochelle, Illinois. If you're just joining us, a tornado rolled its way on through the city. And this is new video, new and live pictures coming into us here of rescue efforts as people are trapped. So rescue efforts underway as this place was actually hit by the tornado.
All right, now what we're talking about 7 o'clock local time in Rochelle, Illinois, about 80 miles northwest of Chicago. A large, dangerous wedge tornado, which is a tornado that's wider than it is tall, moving at about 45 miles per hour. We watched it live on the air, this massive structure cross over I-39 while cars and trucks were beaming forward. Reports of semis gathered. So a half-mile wide tornado moved through, and this is the damage left behind. Unfortunately, Rochelle, Illinois, and rescue efforts now underway. Reports, Alex, that people have been trapped, and you can see the damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we saw that tornado there, and you just knew this massive wedge was rolling through. You knew it was going to be trouble, and now we're seeing the aftermath of that tornado. Again, rescue efforts underway here. Not exactly sure what that building is at this point, but no doubt about it, hearing that people are trapped and rescue efforts are underway.
You know, a guy named Matt Salo, he was the chaser that took the video. We were live on the air. We'll show it to you coming up in just a moment. You won't even believe how massive this thing is. He's been chasing for 23 years, he said on the air. He has never seen in all of his 23 years a tornado this massive. Just to give you a perspective, the damage and the destruction that must be done to this tiny town. It's just farmland there. And so when you see just the massive nature of this thing, about a half a mile wide potentially, it'll be interesting to see the damage and the destruction and what it becomes in EF 3, 4, 5. We'll talk to Greg about that coming up too. He always has a good sense of that.
Yeah, the National Weather Service Office will certainly go out and survey the damage there, but we're getting word that this may be a restaurant that was damaged, and people are trapped here. Heard reports that maybe they were trapped in the basement. So at least that's what they did. They did exactly what you're supposed to do, get into that lowest floor or the basement if there is one, and that's what we're hearing is potentially what happened here, but now trapped underneath some of the debris from that damaged restaurant.
All right, so we're in northern Illinois, here in Rochelle. We saw the damage, and Fairdale, Illinois, incredible damage as well. So you can see there's our live pictures just coming into us on the left side of your screen at about 7 o'clock local time. This is what Matt Salo, the chaser, was in his car taking these incredible pictures. This too, I think another YouTube video of someone else out there. You can see the nature of this massive, that's the wall cloud, that white part you can see there. A wedge tornado. You can see it's not very tall into the atmosphere on the lower edge, but it is incredibly wide. So you look to the right. Look at that farm right there, that white farm. Can you imagine being there? As you can see the front of this, to the right, underneath that, what that is the rain shaft coming down on the west side, the left side of that tornado. It's much clearer. So you can see now, watch this. Can you imagine? We're live on the air watching this incredible wedge tornado. Again, we're in northern Illinois. It's about 7 o'clock local time, about 80 miles northwest of Chicago. This large, dangerous wedge tornado moving through, and this is the damage. You can see this is just the beginning of it. I mean, you only can imagine. I mean, it's rural out there.
Yeah.
So there's certainly not a lot of towns to cross and farms, but certainly there are.
Yeah,
some.
absolutely. So what we're looking at right now, again, rescue efforts underway. We're getting word that this is a restaurant named Grubstakers. That's the name of the restaurant on Illinois 64, as well as Illinois 251 on the corner of 64 and 251. Again, Grubstakers, the restaurant. Getting word that folks were trapped now in the basement, and those rescue efforts are underway. We'll try to get the latest on if there are any injuries and if everyone made it out safely.
I mean, can you imagine the fear? We're watching this here live on the air, watching this tornado, and it was scary for us. Can you imagine being there and watching this monster? To put it in perspective, Matt out there saying in all his years he's never seen anything as massive in 23 years of chasing.
Yeah, and as we were trying to talk to him, it was almost like he couldn't even find the words. It was almost like in shock of what he had seen, and you're seeing it right now, this tornado that was rolling its way near the Rochelle area. Now, of course, we've got Reynolds Wolf, who's been in northern Illinois all evening long, and we're going to get a chance to chat with him and see what he's seeing there on the ground.
And of course, again, in addition to the damage, again, that's Grubstakers restaurant. We'll talk more about that. Go there as well and talk about where this will go as it heads to the East Coast potentially tomorrow.
Well, there you hear the sirens. They were going off. This is in northern Illinois, Ashton, Illinois, to be exact. And you can see the tornado that is taking place. This tornado, again, in the Ashton area, which is just north of Interstate 81 there in northern Illinois. This is the same tornado that made its way towards the New Rochelle area. This is before we saw that huge wedge tornado that took place there. So sort of in the beginning stages here, and you can see it almost in a sort of a rope-like formation there. And again, it's a very scary situation as you hear those sirens going off. Hopefully folks made their way into their safety area when that was happening.
All right, so here we're hearing the sirens. Again, it's about 7 o'clock local time in Ashton, Illinois. It's northern Illinois. This is new video just into us, courtesy of Stephanie Curtis. Thank you so much, from Rochelle, Illinois. And look, you can hear her. Listen. You hear her just saying, so there you are, Rochelle, Illinois. This is really an interesting...
Going through subdivisions.
See, here saying she's going through subdivisions. Look at this. Oh.
All right, well, we want to take you now. This is live on WREX coverage here of that rescue effort that's taking place there at Grubstakers, the restaurant that was damaged. We're going to listen in now.
The basement, and then started ushering us out. So,
how many people were down there?
12, I believe. I think there was 12. So, it was the cook and the owner and her son and the dishwasher and myself, and then 5 or 6 patrons. So.
What was this restaurant called before?
Grubstakers.
And how long have you worked here?
I've been here 6 years. 6 years, yeah.
What was going on when you guys were in the basement? What was it like? Can you kind of describe what happened or just what's going through your head?
A lot of praying. So a lot of praying, some crying, but a lot of reassurance, you know, that everything was going to be okay. So it was so fast, you know, from when I got down there to when, you know, the tornado came over. It just went by so fast. So and then next thing I remember is them trying to open the door, and we were stuck. So I think we were stuck for, I want to say 45 minutes to an hour. They were trying to get us out. So it was pretty scary. So
Well, I appreciate you talking to me, Melissa. I know it must be extremely hard. I mean, I'm just glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Everybody else is okay.
that's my baby over there.
Oh, is that your car?
That's my car. So yeah.
Do you want to point it to it one more time?
Oh yeah. So there's my baby over there. Her name was Lola. Yeah.
Lola looks a little damaged.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to lay her to rest. So, but I don't know. I got all.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. So I got all of my valuables out, my yoga mat and my weights and my Yahtzee game. So.
We're just glad you're okay.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's all that matters. Everybody's okay. So, I mean, restaurant can be rebuilt. You know, cars, get another car. So, I'm fortunate.
Perfect, Melissa. I really appreciate it again. Yep, that was perfect.
Thank you.
I'm sorry again. Yeah.
Glad you're safe.
I might get you fired.
All right, we have just been listening live to the rescue effort underway. Again, this was about 7 o'clock local time, a massive wedge tornado moving through northern Illinois. And this is Rochelle, Illinois. And that was the restaurant called Grubstakers. And you just heard her say, when you see what was behind her, there were 12 people in the restaurant, the cook, the owner, dishwasher, 5 or 6 patrons. They all went into the basement, I think. She said they prayed, they cried, trying to get out. Can you imagine? Their prayers certainly worked, right? 45 minutes stuck, and they couldn't get out. And then that's why, you know, we've seen the people come, the rescue efforts coming in, and certainly they've all survived, and she certainly had a sense of humor about it after.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Fortunate to be alive. And the other thing, she mentioned how quickly it happened.
Right.
So very fast.
Yep.
And that's what happens with these tornadoes. Wanted to talk to Dr. Greg Forbes, our severe weather expert. And Dr. Forbes, we're looking at a little bit of the damage there.
Right.
Can you give us some insight into what you see?
Well, from what I can see there, Alex, what I can see is that it looks like the entire roof is off of this building, and then you could see inside of it. So at least one wall is down. I think some of the other walls are standing. So that would probably put it into the EF2 type wind speed range. We're probably talking maybe up around 130 miles per hour. Now, the tornadoes get rated on the basis of the strongest damage that is done. And so this is not necessarily the strongest damage. We have seen reports in many, many locations for many, many miles of what could be this long track tornado. You're seeing some of the reports there of all those red dots that are tornado reports. This is all from the same supercell, maybe all from the same long track tornado. So if it is one long track tornado, they'll find the spot with the highest rating in terms of the what was done to the building and what their enhanced Fujita scale guidelines tell them about that wind speed that would be needed to do that. And then that maximum, that will be what the tornado gets rated. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be at least an EF2 at that location. There may be a number of tornadoes there, or maybe one long track tornado. That's the kind of thing that damage surveys tomorrow and maybe in subsequent days will give us more details on. I think they're going to find a very wide tornado track. Maybe the damage was about a half-mile wide in those areas where we had that big wedge tornado. Let's go back to the studio.
All right, Greg, thank you so much. All right, I think we're going to talk to Stephanie Curtis. She was the one who shot that video, who we were just watching, and she said, look, it's going through the subdivisions. So we're going to hear from her, and it'll be so interesting from her perspective, looking out from her home, seeing that wedge tornado in the distance, and probably knowing people in those communities and in those subdivisions, and it'll be interesting to see how many people live there, kind of what people do.
Yeah, absolutely. So is Stephanie on the line? Is she on the line right now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. So walk us through it pretty much from beginning to end. Did you hear sirens going off?
No, actually, we didn't hear any. We just got the notices, like alerts on our phone that there was a tornado warning. Wow. So I started watching, and then it started hailing. So that kind of alerted us, too. There was a lot going on outside.
So what did you do then, Stephanie? So you get the alert on your phone. Do you go into a shelter? Do you have one in your home? Is that where you were?
We have a basement, and there was nothing. I mean, it was hailing, but there was nothing really going on. The wind wasn't hardly at all. So we were kind of watching and just kind of keeping an eye on the clouds. And it was relatively calm here. I mean, the wind was blowing a little, but no more than if you were just having a thunderstorm or something. So we were watching, and then my husband saw the funnel cloud coming our way. Well, it actually wasn't coming our way. We could see it traveling across its path. We stepped outside to listen, and I thought that it was thundering because it's obviously lightning, but the sound just continued, and so I was like, I think, that's that trademark sound of a tornado, the train sound. And so we came back in. Wind's still not blowing, so we just, it was blowing some, but, nothing more. We actually grew up in Missouri, and so they're really frequent in Missouri, tornadoes are. So we just kept watching the clouds, and then my husband's like, look at this, and we watched it, and it appeared to be going through neighboring subdivisions that are, like a mile away, and that we know people in, so it was very concerning.
I can only imagine, Stephanie, was there a point where you thought to yourself, okay, we need to get in to a safe place?
Well, we kept watching, and it just kept traveling away from us. And so, yes, you're thinking about your safety, but also the wind wasn't really picking up here at all. So we were just kind of keeping track of it and waiting to go in the basement if
Okay, so Stephanie, we're talking to you on the phone, but we're also looking on the left right now at the restaurant, Grubstakers Restaurant in Rochelle as well, and the damage that was there and how scary it was for them. Have you been to Grubstakers?
I've not. I drive by it on the way to work every day, and yeah, tomorrow I'll see, I guess.
Is it a really small community? Do you know people that live near that area? And we heard your voice saying, oh, look, it's going through the subdivision over there. Subdivision over there. Do you know people in subdivisions over there?
Yeah, actually, my husband and my son are out at some acquaintance's house. Their house is really messed up, and they're helping them with that. And we also went and checked on someone that no one could get in touch with, but she's fine. So we've also heard of another home that was pretty much destroyed. So they're all people that we know and friends, and we haven't heard of anyone that's been injured, thank God, but I don't know for sure.
Stephanie Curtis, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for sharing the video as well. Thank you that, thank goodness that you're safe and your family is safe as well.
All right, so what we know at this point, a 7 o'clock local time in northern Illinois, a massive half-mile wide wedge tornado. This is how big it is. The storm chaser that shot the video that we watched live on the air and then have talked to many times said in his 23 years of chasing, he has never seen a tornado this wide. It was massive. It was about 80 miles northwest of Chicago, moved northeast at 45 miles per hour. So we watched it move, and now, of course, Stephanie, whom we have spoken to, lived in the area that really has been the most severely hurt, Rochelle, Illinois. And, of course, we also talked to people, and we've been watching Grubstaker's restaurant. 12 people in the restaurant at the time, the cook, the owner, 5 or 6 patrons, all went into the basement. Believe it or not, all made it out alive and are fine, and he didn't have a sense of humor about it, but the restaurant is destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we want to get into northern Illinois again on the ground. We've got our very own Reynolds Wolf. He is live right now in just outside of Chicago, about 30 minutes or so. Reynolds, what's the story from where you are?
Well, the story that we have now has really been just an ever-changing situation since 4:30 this morning when we first showed up here. We had fog, we had 42 degrees, then some drizzle, then the skies cleared out. And we were really concerned about the sunshine we got because we felt that would really add to the destabilization of the atmosphere, and that really was the case. I mean, your dew points were just jacked. So a very buoyant atmosphere. So when you had that heating, you had the lifting mechanism, that low, it all came together to give us that video, that scenario that we had farther out to our west. And again, just the video is just staggering. You take a look at that tornado. I mean, just a massive wedge tornado. You guys described it. That came through that community apart. Just devastating. As wise as it is, it's going to be interesting when the National Weather Service goes out tomorrow and surveys the damage to give us a better idea of just how strong this was, where it may have ranged in the EF scale. But regardless of those wind speeds, how strong they might have been, you got people's lives that are changed forever. Certainly a community that is shaken. And when they hear those sirens, we played earlier tonight, that is something that unfortunately so many people across the Midwest have to deal with, especially this time of year. We need that transition from seasons. So again, we're going to actually be lifting up and going there early tomorrow morning, where we're going to be reporting live from the scene, bringing you and the rest of America the story of how this community is coping. Again, early morning, we're going to be there for you, and again, we'll shed first light on this as the situation unfolds before us. But my gosh, frightening situation. As it stands in Chicago, those guys, we aren't done as of yet. If you look at radar, you'll see that we still have a few telltale thunderstorms still gaining a little bit of strength farther back out towards our southwest. They're rolling in this direction. So Chicago still dealing with that tornado watch that's going to be in effect until 11 p.m. local time. And those storms certainly cause some concern, so we got to watch those too. That's the latest we got for you. Let's send it right back to you at the Weather Channel. Guys, Carl? Dr. Forbes?
All right, Reynolds, thank you so much. And what we can tell you right now is that there are no tornado warnings in effect anywhere across the country, but there are still a number of severe thunderstorm warnings. And Dr. Greg, some very strong storms now approaching Chicago.
Yeah, indeed. From the southwest, it looks like it will come to the south side of the Chicago area. Let's take a look here. The warnings are there. There's lots of lightning with those. I have a feeling they may weaken a little bit as they come toward the Chicago area. We have other storms that are down east of Springfield, Illinois, and then farther down state in Illinois. But we'll start taking a look. This is a cluster of storms that actually at one point had tornado warning on it, now becoming more like a small bow echo at the north end of this line of storms, heading up toward the Joliet area, heading right toward the Doppler radar there for the Chicago metro area. And it looks like it will probably come to downtown Chicago and the south side of the Chicago area. There are severe thunderstorm warnings there for Cook, DuPage, and Will counties. These storms are moving about 55 miles per hour, so you can expect maybe some small hail, maybe up to 1 inch in diameter, and some damaging wind that could be over 60 miles per hour with this. Especially given the speed of this, it wouldn't take very much of a downdraft to add to that storm speed. Joliet, about 9:05, very close there now. The Chicago area, about 9:32, right at the downtown area, and then the south suburbs there on the lakefront, Whiting, 9:40. So strong to probably the kind of storms that could down some limbs, maybe cause some power outages in parts of the Chicago metro area heading this way. And of course, the threat for potentially deadly lightning. So this would be time to be moving in and thinking about keeping any of your children or anything that is outside moving indoors and keeping away from the appliances. Let's go farther to the north end of Chicago. Chicago has been very lucky this evening that the storms that went farther to the west, that we've been seeing that big wedge tornado, have missed them. Those storms also have now moved out over Lake Michigan. That little kink in the line that I was showing at the very end is east of Racine. The tail end of that drags into the Waukegan area. No warnings on that, but this cluster of storms likely to hold together as it comes across Lake Michigan, probably going to come into the other side toward the Grand Rapids area, coming toward Grand Rapids just a little bit before midnight tonight. Let's take a look at the situation here. Is one that there's a warm front that runs across this area, the surface low that has been adding some spin to the storms that made the one in northern Illinois probably the strongest that we're going to see today, has pushed up into that area. These line segments that are now east of the low like to run along warm fronts, and so it certainly has that warm front to move across. Could be places like maybe the entire southern half of the lower peninsula of Michigan could yet have another round of storms. They have earlier had some tornado warnings in some of these areas. Going to be probably a different character of storms that will be moving across that area. Farther down along ahead of this blue cold front, we do have pretty warm air and still some severe thunderstorms, although no tornado warnings, as Carl has said, at this time. So we'll continue to keep you updated on all of that. There are some...
Getting closer to Chicago.
Yeah, southern Cook County now, a brand new severe thunderstorm warning. They're talking about 1-inch hail and the possibility of 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That also includes Will County. Farther downstate, Effingham County, as well as Cumberland and Shelby counties, you have severe thunderstorms that probably will move over into Terre Haute in Indiana. Taking a look, there's a warning there down to the southwest of Champaign, Illinois as well. And we also have some storms continuing farther to the south. Look at that one spinning. That one is turning from a supercell thunderstorm into one that has one of these backwards C shapes, comma heads. There is some rotation in that one. Can never totally rule out a tornado in this kind of a storm. It has definitely some rotation there around the Neoga area. We'll be heading toward the Casey area. So we may not have any tornado warnings at the moment. Doesn't mean that we're done for the night. We still could have something like that. We have severe thunderstorms rolling into Shreveport in Louisiana, and I believe Carl Parker is going to take it from there. Carl?
All right, Dr. Greg, and yes, there's a warning now for Bossier and Caddo parishes in Louisiana. We've still got a warning for Harrison, Marion, and Panola counties in East Texas. This was the storm that had significant rotation on it. There has not been, as of yet, a report of a tornado, but we did see not only very strong rotation, but debris on the radar as well. We did get some reports of damage there in northeast Texas. Another warning off to the west, Harrison, Panola, Rusk counties. That's going until 9:15, and then to the south of that, Panola, Rusk County also under warning. That includes the Carthage area. That's going until 9:15. So a lot of activity still here along I-20. And then as we take you a bit farther to the north, and we'll time all of this out, and you notice that this is coming into Shreveport in short order. 60-mile-per-hour wind will be the threat. Red shoot at 9:31, 9:48 getting into Houghton, and 10:13 moving over into Minden. Now to the north of that, we've been watching storms that have been rolling across the same areas there in southern Arkansas. Flash flood warning ongoing, 3 to 4 to 5 inches of rain there in southern Arkansas, but it does look like we're going to get a bit of a break there. There you see in yellow more than 3 inches of rain. Now we're getting up into that 4 to 5 inch territory in that red there. There you see a 4.9 just to the north and east of El Dorado. Farther to the north, up into southeastern parts of Missouri, more severe thunderstorm warnings just west of the Mississippi River Valley, around Poplar Bluff, not very far away from Cape Girardeau. We'll go through a couple of these warnings for you now, and the concern here is 1-inch hail and damaging wind. So Carter, Ripley County under warning. That's going until 9:15, and then off to the north and east of that, another warning for Wayne County until 9:30. Brand new warning has just popped on that does include Cape Girardeau, Bollinger, Cape Girardeau, Perry counties under severe warning, and certainly there's going to be damaging wind along that line. When you see a linear convective system, as we call it, a line of thunderstorms, then primarily what you're looking at is a wind and hail threat, and that's going to be coming over into Cape Girardeau. Also some lingering storms around Raleigh and Durham, and an ongoing flash flood warning there. As Dr. Greg mentioned, could be some additional tornadoes, but mostly what we're looking at least right now, is a wind and hail threat and very heavy rain. Alex, over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Colin. We appreciate it. And of course, we're continuing to follow the story in northern Illinois near Rochelle, where a tornado rolled its way on through. Let's listen in live now. This is from WREX-TV, getting an update on what's happening there.
People that are trained technical rescue people on various departments working with us. But as we cut away to get into the basement, we had to shore it up to make sure we didn't have any more cave-ins, make sure our guys going down were going to be safe. So it was quite a job, but we got everybody out. It appears to be minor injuries. None of our folks were hurt. None of the surrounding departments that came to help us none of their people were hurt. So from that standpoint, it was a successful operation for us.
So, you guys think of anything else? Can you remember a storm that did this much damage in your time in the department?
No, I've been on the department almost 35 years now, and we've never had anything come through like this.
Anything else you want to add in?
No, just my thanks to the departments that came in and gave us a hand. And it's going to be a long night, but thank God so far we don't have anybody seriously injured.
Wonderful. How many departments were here tonight?
We had Stoneman Valley, Ogilvie, Rochelle, Mount Morris, and Monroe Center all came in to help us tonight. So,
have you guys been called to any of the other surrounding homes?
We haven't, because we do have crews out and about, because there are other homes that are damaged in the area, and that's what we're starting to do now, is we're checking the entire district. We know the path that the storm took, and so that's the path we're going over now, and we're double checking all of the houses and farms along that path.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, we were just listening, of course, to the fire department. He said he's been in the fire department for 35 years, and he has never seen anything like this. So just an incredible event. Of course, we're talking about Rochelle, Illinois, about 80 miles west of Chicago. A massive wedge tornado roared through this area at about 7 o'clock local time.
And damaging a restaurant there, Grubstakers there, and they had to rescue some folks. The great news they're coming out, everyone got out. Minor injuries, and again, he's considered it a successful operation, so that is the best news out of this. Everyone got out safely.
All right, continuing coverage of the biggest tornado outbreak thus far this year, coming back right after the break.
And welcome back to our coverage of a tornado outbreak across much of the middle of the country, and it's not over yet. There is a new tornado warning to tell you about for Cape Girardeau County and Perry County in Missouri. And let's get over to a severe weather expert, Dr. Greg Forbes. And Dr. Greg, a line of storms here, but rotation within that.
Definitely is. It's one of these things where there's an intersection of a couple of lines, and sometimes those intersections will give you tornadoes. And we're talking about it's hidden under all of this lightning. It just exploded along this line of thunderstorms that is along the cold front here. We're talking off to the north and west of Paducah. That's the Cape Girardeau, Missouri area, just to the west of the Mississippi River. So talking about Cape Girardeau County here, the storm, and Perry County. Here's that intersection I was talking about. There's one arm comes up in here, and then the rest of the body of the storm comes back in here. So sometimes those intersection areas will wind up giving tornadoes. And look at the velocities here. Just to the south and west of Apple Creek, very strong counterclockwise rotation. You see the yellows going northwest bound, the greens going southwest bound. So this is a very strong rotation there in the Apple Creek area of Missouri, heading over toward the Poplar Ridge area of Illinois. And you see about 10:07 Central Time would be coming across the Poplar Ridge area. So Altenburg, very close to the Mississippi River there, 9:42. Dangerous storm has really shown its increased rotation. Here in the high definition radar, there's the arm coming in. The hiding circulation, you wouldn't think this if you didn't have the Doppler radar, but that little curly Q in the higher return radar there is right where the tornado is located. So there is that red and green couplet. I'll ask the radar to see if there's any debris showing up. No debris showing up at this time. It is all just a circulation that's embedded in rain and possibly some hail there with this particular storm. So be on the lookout in the Appleton area, heading over toward the Grand Tower area right along the Mississippi River. Now, taking a look up in the Chicago area, we were talking to Reynolds Wolf were showing us, and he'll be having a look to the south, I think, at severe storms that are coming maybe with 70-mile-per-hour winds now across the Joliet area. Cook, DuPage, and Will counties have severe thunderstorm warnings with that. These storms are racing at about 50 miles per hour across the area. Big, tall thunderstorms that are showing up. We can show in this particular portrayal of the storms as in this way of showing in 3D. And here you see some of the high top thunderstorms. Very sharp leading edge to that. We'll probably have some strong downdrafts along the leading edge of that will be giving perhaps damaging winds to parts of the Chicago metro. Another way that we can show this, if we go to the Gibson Ridge 19, we can take a look at what I call an MRI. It's dark now, but if you were able to look at the storms from the south side, you would see this, a wall of clouds here, maybe a little bit of an overshooting top there, but I took a slice through the storms there. If you flew around to the southwest side of that, and then were able to peer inside, you have the top of the storm, maybe a little bit of a trailing line. There's the anvil coming out, but then some very heavy rain and hail that are in the midst of this particular storm. So perhaps some 1-inch hail, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts coming within a matter of 15 minutes or so now up into the Chicago area. Carl?
Dr. Greg, maybe very quickly we could talk about the forecast for tomorrow, because we do expect to see more severe storms, mid-Atlantic region and down across the southeast. Not as much of a tornado threat, but even when you have these lines of storms coming across that area, sometimes little boundaries show up, especially eastern North Carolina, southeast Virginia.
As we get later on into the afternoon and evening, the cold front that is now coming across Illinois will be marching its way into places like southeast Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, down into Maryland, Delaware, all the way down into the Carolinas with a chance of damaging gusts.
But I looked out the window and I saw it, and it was huge. You know, it was huge, and it was coming right for us. And at that moment, Ava just grabbed me, and Ava's the owner, grabbed me, and she said, you know, just get to the basement. And she and I were the first ones down there, so we didn't see a whole heck of a lot. So, but I know Sal that works there, he's the cook and co-manager. He was responsible for getting the patrons to the basement. So, yeah, I didn't see a whole heck of a lot, but...
How are you feeling right now?
I'm in shock. So I'm in shock. I've got no job and no car, so it's scary. So, but I'm glad I'm alive, and there was, you know, everybody down there was so supportive. Everybody was healthy. Everybody was, nobody was injured. So everybody was praying, and every loved one that we were able to get a hold of, everybody was okay. So it's just a shock. That's all I can say.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back. Certainly a scary night in Rochelle, Illinois, about 80 miles west of Chicago. She was one of 12 people in a restaurant, Grubstaker's Restaurant in Rochelle, Illinois, that was flattened by a massive wedge tornado that about 7 o'clock local time moved through this tiny town. She was in there, 12 people, a cook, an owner, dishwasher. They were trapped in the restaurant. You heard her say, Melissa Jamie was her name. Trapped in the restaurant, they prayed, they cried, trying to get out. They were stuck in there for 45 minutes. And then the fire chief said he cut away into the basement, and he said, quote, quite a job. The assistant fire chief, whom we're going to hear from, said he was at the department for 35 years, and he has never had anything like this happen. So it's really been an incredible, scary night. And believe it or not, no injuries, minor injuries, but certainly no deaths.
Yeah, everyone made it out with no problems there. Successfully, everyone was rescued. So again, fantastic news on that end there, as everyone was able to get out unharmed. And it's fantastic to hear that all these people made their way into the basement of this restaurant. You know, we always tell folks, you hear the sirens or you know there's danger coming, you know there's a warning, seek shelter, get into that basement, innermost portion of your home. And it looks like these people did just that. And the result now, everyone making it out alive. So these are some of the pictures from earlier there as the rescues were being were taking place. And again, the good news, everyone made it out. Just a few minor injuries, and some of those were transported there privately with their own vehicles to the hospital.
Right, and you know, we just have this just in now. The Rochelle Assistant Fire Chief spoke, and he said, now looking, of course, on the other side of your screen at certainly the search and rescue here, of course, at that Grubstakers restaurant in Rochelle. Again, literally flattened. I think actually one or two of the walls may be standing, but certainly a scary scenario. He said 4 homes have been flattened already in Rochelle. People, as you just said, Alex, transported to the hospital, but in private vehicles, which is important to note. No ambulances were necessary. And when you see this wedge tornado, as we watched it live on the air a few hours ago, and now you see, of course, the aftermath, it is just a miracle. Crews out there right now checking out the entire area, also checking on the homes and the farms in this tornado's path. 80 miles west of Chicago, a large, dangerous wedge tornado, 7 o'clock local time, moved northeast at about 45 miles per hour. And we watched it, Alex, watching this wedge tornado live on the air, crossing Interstate 39 with just vehicles still cruising, going right toward it. Really unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. And, you know, we're going to get a chance to find out what else happened there in terms of other damage across the area, because, again, this thing was a massive tornado. But the good news here, at least just north of Rochelle there at the Grubstakers restaurant, everyone that was trapped there in the basement making it out safely.
But, you know, the breaking news is, Alex, that we still have tornado warnings up and down. Of course, the center of the country just ensconced in storms. The biggest tornado outbreak thus far this year. And boy, Greg, you nailed it. You said 60% chance of a tornado, but did you expect a wedge tornado of that magnitude tonight?
Well, Alex, unfortunately, yes. I thought we probably would, especially up in that area, Carl, where we had the surface low. We had the upper air forcing that was pushing into that area. So while the Torcon does not specifically predict intensity, usually in these kind of days when the Torcon gets up into the 5-6 range, 1 or 2 of the tornadoes are going to be maybe in the strong category, and we certainly appear to have had one of those today.
And an interesting case, because there wasn't a terrific amount of directional shear today, but there was an awful lot of speed shear. The winds getting much faster as you go up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, it really was. Plus the counterclockwise horizontal spin of the surface low there added, I think, some rotation up in this area near the warm front as well. Now, that said, let's take a look at what's still going on. We do have still severe thunderstorms coming into the Chicago area, so could be maybe 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts there. We do have severe thunderstorm warnings for parts of Cook County and some of the adjacent counties there, as a cluster of thunderstorms, especially the northeast part of that, Cook, DuPage, and Will counties, included in the severe thunderstorm warning for the leading line that probably is going to be the one that has the most widespread potential to knock down some trees and power lines here and there. It's mostly coming strongest up into the Calumet area. I don't like that little kink that I see in the line there. It's not totally out of the question that we could still get a tornado with this. And you see the north end of that line is just about heading toward the downtown parts of Chicago. So the southern half of the Chicago metro area, all the way down to areas just to the northwest of Gary, Indiana, likely to have that threat for some damaging wind gusts. And there is another separate storm that is down south of Frankfort, north of Peatone, that is giving parts of a severe thunderstorm warning that goes a little bit farther to the south of that leading line. So dangerous storms there. Now, down in the Cape Girardeau, Missouri area, that Cook and Will counties included in that one. Down into the Cape Girardeau, Missouri area, a line of thunderstorms with 2 arms coming up the front side of that. We don't totally understand what these are. They may be some kind of wave features, but often as they go by, they'll induce some circulation in the line, and there certainly is some circulation that's taking place back in there. You see that kink there, and that is where the Doppler velocities, the greens eastbound, the reds westbound, indicate there is the possibility of a tornado in what's becoming sort of a bow echo with a rotating comma shape, a comma head to that. So places coming up north of Pocahontas, Missouri, up toward the Grand Tower area of Illinois, a possibility of a tornado there. There you see it timed out across this area. Carbondale, Illinois, 1026. Carbondale, by the way, Carl, that's one of the places that was hit by the tri-state tornado back on March 18th, 1925. And for the viewers, at some times we're showing a video of a big wall cloud. The cloud is almost all the way to the ground. You can barely see the big wedge tornado beneath that. And that is probably the way that many of the people back in 1925 were seeing this big tri-state tornado. Some of them didn't realize it was a tornado. They said it was a cloud or a fog bank all the way to the ground. So I think we might have gotten a picture. This one, you're able to see the tornado, but mostly it's a big wall cloud there that's almost all the way to the ground. It doesn't look like the big cylindrical tornado that people are most often looking at. So we may have seen this in the Carbondale area, where we're heading the tornado tonight. We may have seen something like that back in something like this one back in 1925.
And that's what we saw with the El Reno tornado, just this big wall that was moving from left to right there. And talking about this tornado that happened earlier, we've got the chaser video. We actually had this live on the Weather Channel, and that is not something that happens every day, that's for sure. Chaser just happened to be right on this storm, and Dr. Greg, that is certainly a cone shape and even a wedge shaped tornado there, massive tornado, and then within that, multiple vortices capable of causing great damage.
Yeah, we certainly expect that was the case. I think we've seen maybe some photos that we haven't gotten permission to use on air yet that showed that it did have those multiple vortices. Damaging winds rolling through the Shreveport area as well, and additional places across the country this evening. We'll come back and talk about, at times here, who's in store for these severe thunderstorms tomorrow. And it may be places like Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, and maybe down into the Carolinas. So we're not done with this weather system just yet. Stay tuned.
Well, welcome back. What you're looking at is a video from earlier in Fairdale, Illinois. This is damage from a tornado that rolled on through the area. Reports into the Weather Channel of one person dead. And again, that is just reports at this point, not confirmed, but reports of one person dead. At this point, in terms of injuries and others missing, unclear. So that is still something that we're trying to work on and find out. But again, this is damaged video coming in from Fairdale. We showed you some of the video earlier of the massive wedge tornado that worked its way, starting in the Ashton area. We saw some of the video there. Then it made its way over towards Rochelle, and then in Fairdale, and this is what we see the result of it here. There is that video there near Rochelle of that massive tornado.
Oh, wow. This is just unbelievable. We were watching this live on the air at about 7 o'clock local time. This is about half-mile wide, massive wedge tornado here in northern Illinois, about 80 miles west of Chicago along I-88. So this, again, is Rochelle from earlier in the day. So the tornado essentially went Ashton, moved east to Rochelle, and then moved northeast to Fairdale, Illinois, kind of traversing I-88 and then going on I-39. And, you know, we had, of course, the chaser video earlier, and he was along I-39 and watching, just looking at I-39. Just incredible seeing it just kind of parallel the road and all the trucks still driving.
Absolutely unbelievable. All right, well, we want to get you out into the ground now and show you how things are faring in northern Illinois. We got our very own Reynolds Wolf, who is just outside of Chicago. Reynolds, how's it shaping up?
Well, we're in an interesting spot. Just give our viewers across America our location. We're actually in what they refer to as an oasis along parts of 294. This is the O'Hare Oasis, meaning that O'Hare Airport is actually on the other side of the camera. This is to our north, this to our south, this is to our immediate southeast. On the end of this parking lot, you see the semi-trucks, and what we have been seeing quite a bit of is a beautiful display of cloud-to-cloud lightning. Occasionally, the wind will pick up. We had a little bit of a light drizzle a while ago, heavier downpours earlier in the day. Right now, not a whole lot in terms of rainfall, but yes, I'm hoping to catch some lightning for you guys. You can see it. Much of it is now moving off to my immediate left at this point, but very interesting watching this develop. You know, all day long, it has been building up to what we've had this afternoon and into the evening hours. It started off with fog, a little bit of drizzle, had a break by midday, some sunshine, helped destabilize the atmosphere, and obviously we're dealing with the byproducts of that. In terms of travel, roadways got really slow on parts of the tollway. Airport, over 700,000 135 cancellations took place, and we had delays up to an hour and a half. Right now, with that delay, though, these storms are racing their way right into the Chicago area. Certainly interesting to watch these come on through. If we can, let's send it over to Dr. Forbes and Carl Parker. Guys, what are you guys seeing on radar at this point?
Well, it looks like most of the action is off to the south of you in Chicago. We're going to look at that warning here in a moment. And, you know, Dr. Greg, every severe weather event has got a curve. It's got a peak. And it looks like we are definitely past that peak right now, looking at mostly severe thunderstorm warnings, but there still may be some tornado warnings.
There still definitely is a chance of that. We had a tornado warning down around Cape Girardeau, Missouri. That has expired. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning there, but we still could get some severe weather yet tonight. The storms are a little bit spotty at this point. It's not a solid line along the cold front, but we do still have a severe thunderstorm warning that is coming into the south side of Chicago. Reynolds is up near Des Plaines. That's around the area where O'Hare is located. So storms have missed him to the north and west and are missing him to the south. He's been seeing some lightning with these storms. Cook, DuPage, and Will counties. You have a multi-chord storm system. It's a cluster of thunderstorms that are coming through. The first one has gone out over the Lake Michigan area. There are still some additional storms to go. You see big cluster of lightning strikes, especially with that leading storm. 192 strikes there showing up. These are cloud to ground strikes that are indicated. So stay indoors and stay off of the plumbing, stay off of the corded appliances because the lightning could get conducted into your house that way. He also has been seeing some lightning off to his north up around the Waukegan area, northeastern Illinois, and that's part of that storm system, part of that big, what is now a big cluster of storms that earlier gave that tornado that we've been seeing so much damage from. It went from a supercell into a configuration, a bent line pattern we call a line wave pattern. So that storm system is pushing its way across Lake Michigan, may yet give some new severe thunderstorms over into Michigan. We'll continue to see that.
You are on tornado alert. Let me just get you up to speed. At 7 o'clock this evening, 80 miles west of Chicago, a massive, dangerous, and it appears deadly wedge tornado tore through 3 towns in Illinois: Ashton, Rochelle, and then Fairdale, Illinois. This is Fairdale from earlier. We do have reports of 1 person dead in Fairdale. It is unclear, though, how many have been injured or are missing. Again, right now, of course, this massive wedge tornado moved east and then north, really tearing apart communities. 4 houses have been flattened. People have been transported to hospitals in private vehicles. So that is important to note in Rochelle, Illinois. Again, with minor injuries, no ambulances were required. What we're looking at here is a restaurant that has been severely damaged in Rochelle. Again, it's been unbelievable the damage we've seen from this. But again, in Rochelle, this was the restaurant. Of course, it was called Grubstaker's Restaurant. 12 people were in the restaurant at the time this tornado moved through. The cook, an owner, dishwasher, 5 or 6 people trapped. They were all trapped in the basement, and we spoke to one of the women, and she was praying and crying. She said they could not get out. Finally, though, the assistant fire chief knocked down some walls and helped to get everybody out. And what we're looking at there, of course, the fire department is there assessing the damage. Again, believe it or not, there was damage, but no fatalities here within that restaurant. All right, of course, this is what's happened thus far, the biggest tornado outbreak we've seen this year. But there is more. Certainly, we've got a lot of tornado warnings from north to south. And also, Alex, tomorrow along the eastern seaboard, the threat may not be tornadoes, but certainly damaging winds and hail.
Man, that's right. We're in the midst of this. We talked about how this would be over several days. So as you said, tomorrow we'll be watching a lot of this activity moving east. Now, right now, quick check on what's happening around Chicago as we're following this storm. Severe thunderstorm warning on that. Cook, Lake, and Will counties until 10 o'clock local time. Main threat with that would be damaging wind, a bit of hail as well, as that continues to march on off towards the north and the east. Eventually, that'll work its way on into the southern portions of Lake Michigan. A bit of lightning associated with the storm as well, and again, marching on off towards the north and the east. So be on the lookout. South side of Chicago dealing with that. Then we move a little bit farther south now for you as we slide our way down from Champaign, sliding a little bit farther south, Effingham over towards Mount Vernon. Several of these areas dealing with storms with severe warnings as well, including this one here, which is just to the now south and east of the Greenup area. until 10:45. You've got a severe thunderstorm warning there. That's for Clark, Cumberland, and Jasper counties. Does include you there in Marshall. And you notice as that thing continues to march its way towards the east, Terre Haute, you may be in line to deal with this storm here, so heads up. Damaging winds and hail, the big threat with that particular storm. South of that, there's St. Louis there at the top of your screen. A line of storms tracking south and east here for you. There's Cape Girardeau here. Severe thunderstorm warnings here all along that line of storms. Heavy rain, damaging winds. In fact, some reports of even some trees down and some damage there. So we'll be watching that and following up on that. But right now there is an active warning that is in place. Cape Girardeau, you are included, as well as Jackson and Pomona, and that is out until 10 o'clock local time. So again, the main threat there would be damaging winds along that line. And continuing to follow the line on off towards the south and the west, central parts of Arkansas, we're getting ready to now see that line of storms move into Little Rock, all associated with our cold front and another storm just east of Shreveport. Alexandra?
All right, Alex, thank you so much. Of course, we've been talking about Grubstaker's restaurant in Rochelle, Illinois, absolutely leveled by this massive wedge tornado. And now we hear from the owner, and who is a reporter as well.
I'm standing outside of Grubstaker's, where a tornado demolished the building. I'm standing right now with the co-owner, Saul. If he wants to join me, he has been the owner for 8 years and has worked here for 9 years. Saul, can you tell me what happened?
So what happened over here is, I'm always back in the kitchen to cooking. When I see the tornado, they come all the way to this side. So I kind of everybody is scared. All this happened, So what I do at that moment, I took some people in the basement down there, and I know you guys can see the hole right there, to try to all those people safe. And so there's much about the body, too much about the people, and everything.
When did you guys know a tornado was coming straight towards you?
Well, when I find out a tornado is going, almost what I want to say, what a quarter mile away, when it's so dark, very windy, they're throwing branches and dust and everywhere. That's when I say they got to go do something to the people down there in the basement. Yeah.
And how many people were down there with you?
It's around about 13 people down there. So I have a few girls there, and they have a dishwasher and waitresses too. And try to all the people come down because